The Galactic Combat Academy's training hall fell silent as Instructor Vex Thor strutted before the assembled cadets. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the artificial lights, and his forearms gestured dramatically as he spoke. The Krillian war veteran was known throughout the academy for his intimidating presence and his particular disdain for the newer species in the Galactic Coalition, especially humans. Before we begin today's combat assessment, Vex Thor's voice echoed through his translator unit. I feel it necessary to share some perspective. His mandibles clicked in what his species considered amusement. You see, I have killed humans before, 3 of them to be precise, during the border skirmishes of Sector 7. Grace sat motionless in the 3rd row, her expression unreadable. The 19-year-old human girl from Earth, or as the galaxy had begun calling it, the Deathworld, kept her brown eyes fixed on the Instructor. Beside her, Ezra tensed, his jaw clenching. They were fragile things, Vex Thor continued, his tone dripping with condescension. Soft-skinned, weak-boned. One well-placed strike to their absurdly vulnerable organs, and they simply stopped functioning. He paused for effect, his multifaceted eyes scanning the crowd. I tell you this not to boast, but to illustrate a point. Combat is not about honor or fairness. It is about exploiting weakness. And humans? He laughed, a grating sound. They are nothing but weakness incarnate. Several alien cadets shifted uncomfortably. The handful of humans in the class exchanged glances. But Grace remained perfectly still, her breathing steady and controlled. Vex Thor's gaze finally landed on her. You the human girl. Grace, isn't it? From Earth's Pacific sector? His mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. Tell me, do my words frighten you? Do you wish to withdraw from this institution and return to your soft little world? Grace stood slowly. At 5'6", she was smaller than most cadets in the room, dwarfed by species that had evolved on worlds with lighter gravity and gentler ecosystems. She walked down the aisle with measured steps, her boots barely making a sound on the metal floor. Permission to demonstrate a counter technique, sir? Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. Vex Thor's antenna twitched with interest. A counter technique? To what precisely? To your tactics against humans, sir. You mentioned exploiting weakness. I'd like to show the class how that principle applies, universally. Grace stepped onto the training mat, standing casually with her hands at her sides. The instructor's clicking laughter filled the hall. How delightful. The Deathworlder wants to play warrior. He descended from his platform, his 8-foot frame towering over her. Very well. Show me what your fragile species has learned about combat. Attack me, Grace said simply. The way you killed those 3 humans. Vex Thor needed no further invitation. With the speed that had made Krillians feared across 12 systems, he lunged forward, his primary striking arm aimed at her center mass, a blow designed to rupture internal organs. It was the same attack pattern that had killed countless opponents. The same technique that had ended 3 human lives. What happened next would be studied in the Academy's archives for decades to come. Grace didn't retreat. She didn't dodge. Instead, she moved forward and slightly left, her movement so economical it seemed almost lazy. Her right hand snapped up, deflecting Vex Thor's striking arm by mere centimeters. Just enough. Her left hand formed into a precise spear hand strike, shot forward into the gap between Vex Thor's primary and secondary chest plates. The Krillian's biology placed his primary neural cluster, analogous to a human's solar plexus, in that exact location. Grace's strike, delivered with the full rotational force of her hips and core, compressed the neural bundle with surgical precision. Vex Thor's entire body locked up. His mandibles gaped in a soundless scream. His forearms spasmed uncontrollably. He collapsed to the mat in less than 2 seconds, his exoskeleton clattering against the floor. The entire sequence had taken perhaps a heartbeat and a half. Grace stood over the gasping instructor, her expression still neutral. You're not wrong about exploiting weakness, sir, but you made a critical error in your assessment. She crouched beside him, speaking softly enough that only he could hear her next words, though her voice still carried through the deathly silent hall. Those 3 humans you killed, they were probably civilians, or maybe soldiers who'd never faced a Krillian before, who didn't know your anatomy, your combat patterns, your vulnerabilities. She paused. But humans, sir, we're adaptable. We study, we learn, We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Predators, diseases, weather, other humans. We became the apex species not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we never stopped learning how to kill things that were stronger and faster than us. She stood, addressing the class now. Instructor Vexthor survived encounters with unprepared humans and mistook fortune for superiority. He learned their weaknesses but never considered that we might learn his. Grace looked down at the still twitching Krillian. That neural cluster I struck? It's documented in our xenobiology databases, along with the vulnerable points of every species in the coalition. We humans study these things, you see, because where we come from, underestimating your enemy doesn't just lose you fights, it makes you extinct. Ezra had moved to the front of the crowd, a grim smile on his face. Should we call medical, Grace? He'll recover in a few minutes, Grace said calmly. The strike was precisely calculated, enough to incapacitate, not enough to cause permanent damage. Unlike the killing blows he seemed so proud of. She turned to face the assembled cadets representing 24 species from across the galaxy. Let this be the lesson for today. Combat isn't about who's naturally stronger or faster. It's about who's better prepared. And humans? She glanced back at the groaning Vexthor. We've been preparing since before we even left our Deathworld. As medical personnel rushed in to attend to the instructor, the Academy's commandant, a wise old Cerulean, watched from the observation deck above. Her 3 eyes blinked in succession, a sign of deep contemplation. Perhaps, she murmured to her aide, we should reconsider the curriculum. If a single human cadet can dismantle our most decorated combat instructor in under 2 seconds, she trailed off, watching Grace help Ezra and the other human cadets demonstrate proper defensive techniques to their alien classmates. Commandant, her aide prompted. Make a note, she said. New policy proposal. Human combat instructors. If they're this effective as students, imagine what they could teach us as masters. Below, Grace was explaining Krillian anatomy to a fascinated crowd of cadets, her voice patient and educational. She'd made her point without arrogance or cruelty. She'd defended her species' honor without hatred or vengeance. She'd done exactly what humans had always done best. She'd adapted, she'd learned, and when challenged, she'd proven that the children of Earth were not prey. They were survivors, and in a galaxy that was only beginning to understand what that truly meant, that made all the difference. The end.